looking everywhere, that's how the story goes. Grab your key.
The story so far has swept us through nights of music, laughter, and shimmering glamour. Under torchlight and beneath the silver moon, the maidens of the village, bold, radiant, dangerously beautiful, have reveled in dances, feasts, and whispered romances by river and forest. Isabelle, Clarice, Julienne, Mariette, and Eliza have stood at the center of it all, their gowns glittering, their passions alive, their every glance and touch pulling us deeper into their intoxicating circle. Adrian, noble and devoted, has basked in their radiance, drawn to Isabelle's fire, yet tangled in the web of beauty around her. But as the music soared higher, shadows have begun to thicken. A strange unease hangs over the village. Glimpses of pale figures in the woods, whispers in the chapel ruins, and the eerie silence of the night hint at something unnatural stirring. And Eliza, once playful and bright, seems touched by something more dangerous, a temptation that could drag her into darkness. Now, as the next chapters unfold, the story shifts. Love, lust, and beauty remain at the center, but horror begins to creep into the fire-lit gatherings. Desire itself becomes a weapon, and seduction may no longer belong to the maidens alone. One by one, secrets will be unveiled, and Evelyn, the cursed bride buried alive, edges closer to claiming her first victim. Stay with us as the glamour of romance collides with the terror of the grave. The tale only grows darker, bolder, and more irresistible from here. Like, comment, and subscribe to the Zombie Story so you don't miss the next chapter in this seductive nightmare. Gothic romance, zombie horror, dark seduction, the Zombie Story Zone. Number Hammer Chapter 7. Eliza's Temptation. The manor had not been so lively since Midsummer's Feast, yet beneath the laughter there lingered a faint unease. Mariette had not returned. A week had passed since her red ribbon was found tangled on the iron gate of the churchyard. The circle of maidens still whispered her name with forced laughter, refusing to admit the chill in their hearts. No one more so than Eliza. Eliza had been Mariette's mirror in mischief, equally bold, equally flirtatious. Though where Mariette burned like fire, Eliza glittered like sunlight on water. If Mariette had vanished into the night, Eliza swore she would shine brighter to defy the darkness. She threw herself into every dance, every laugh, every embrace, daring sorrow to come for her. The Festival of Lights. The village, eager to banish its own fears, declared a festival. Lanterns of colored glass were strung along the streets, casting jewel-toned glow upon the cobblestones. Merchants sold sugared almonds, spiced cider, roasted chestnuts. Fiddlers played in the square, and couples danced with abandon beneath the autumn moon. The maidens arrived in a blaze of glamour. Celeste, always regal, wore violet silk embroidered with golden lilies, her neckline modest yet her bearing commanding. Isolde shimmered in green velvet, her bodice laced tight, her hair falling in dark, glossy curls. Sophie appeared like a blushing rose in pink, her neckline lower than usual, coaxed into daring by her companions. Clara wore white with silver threads, like a star descended to earth. And then there was Eliza. She chose scarlet satin, cut daringly low across her chest, the bodice shaped to reveal the swell of her heavy breasts. Her skirts clung to her slim waist and curved hips before spilling in waves. Pearls glimmered at her throat, her golden hair piled high and crowned with a spray of tiny roses. She looked like a queen who had decided to be a temptress instead. As she entered the square, men turned from their partners. Children dropped their sugared almonds. Even the fiddlers faltered in their playing. Eliza laughed, lifting her skirts just enough to show her ankles as she spun, claiming the night as her stage. Playful encounters. The men swarmed like bees to honey. One offered her mulled wine, another begged to dance. A third swore to write a poem in her honor by dawn. Eliza accepted everything. Wine, dances, kisses on her gloved hand, then slipped away before promises could bind her. She danced with a farmer's son, teasing him with coy glances. She laughed with a visiting noble, daring him to keep pace with her quick wit. She even stole the ribbon from Clara's hair and tied it around her wrist, declaring, "If Mariette is gone, then I shall wear her spirit tonight." Celeste frowned at that, though her lips curved still in grace. "Do not jest so," she murmured. We do not know what fate befell her. Eliza twirled away, voice bright as bells. Fate cannot touch us when we shine so brightly. We are eternal in our beauty. The others laughed with her, though unease flickered in their eyes. The whisper at the river. Later, when the square had grown crowded and the heat of bodies pressed too close, Eliza slipped away toward the riverbank. Lanterns floated upon the water, their reflections trembling like 1,000 restless spirits. The night air cooled her flushed skin, and she loosened the laces of her gown just enough to breathe more freely. She gazed at her reflection in the water, her golden hair, her flushed cheeks, the deep swell of her neckline illuminated by lantern light. She smiled, proud of her beauty, proud that she could hold men and women alike in thrall. Then she heard it, a whisper. Soft as breath, low as a sigh. Eliza? She spun, skirts rustling, but no one stood behind her. The square's music was faint, far away. The river murmured, the lanterns drifted. Again, Eliza? Her pulse quickened. The voice was familiar, though broken, as though carried on the wind from some forgotten place. It was not Mariette's, though for a fleeting moment Eliza wished it were. No, this voice was older, deeper, aching with sorrow and promise. She stepped toward the trees lining the river. Who calls me? The shadows thickened. For an instant, she saw the outline of a woman, a torn gown, pale arms, dark hair tangled with weeds. And then it was gone. A thrill coursed through Eliza. She should have fled. Instead, she whispered, "Show yourself." But no answer came. Only the lanterns floated onward, one extinguishing suddenly as though swallowed by unseen lips. Return to the circle. When Eliza rejoined her companions, she was flushed, her eyes bright. "Where did you go?" Sophie asked nervously. "We feared you had vanished too." "Vanished?" Eliza laughed, tossing her hair. "I only sought the river's kiss. Do you not see? The night adores me." Celeste studied her, thoughtful. "You are too reckless." Eliza took her hand, pressing it against her bosom. "Then let recklessness be my virtue. If Mariette is gone, I will dance twice as boldly for her." The circle cheered at her bravado, yet Clara whispered to Sophie, "Did you not feel the air colder when she returned?" The mirror's secret. That night, back in her chamber, Eliza stripped her gown and stood before her tall mirror. The candlelight painted her skin gold, her breasts heavy and full, her waist slim. She lifted her hair, admiring her curves. "No fate can harm me," she whispered. "I am too beautiful to be touched by sorrow." Then, her reflection blinked. Eliza froze. She had not blinked herself. In the mirror, for an instant, she saw another face overlay her own. Hollow-cheeked, lips bloodless, eyes like ash. Evelyn. The candle guttered. Eliza gasped and stumbled back, clutching her gown to her chest. When she looked again, the mirror showed only her own trembling form. She laughed shakily, forcing courage. "I am only tired. The wine plays tricks." Yet when she blew out the candle and slid into her bed of silken sheets, the whisper came again, curling against her ear though no lips touched her. "Eliza? Soon!" Denial and desire days passed, and Eliza grew more radiant than ever. It was as though she tried to drown out fear with beauty. She wore gowns with deeper necklines, jewels brighter, perfumes stronger. Men tripped over themselves to please her. Even women stared in awe, their envy mingled with admiration. But when she was alone, when mirrors trembled, when shadows lengthened, she thought she saw Mariette's auburn hair vanish around corners, thought she heard footsteps in the graveyard, thought she smelled roses rotting into iron. And each time, the whisper, "Eliza." Part of her recoiled. Another part, hungry, restless, leaned toward it, aching for the same secret Mariette might have found. The hint of doom. One evening, as the circle gathered to sip wine in the garden, Eliza strolled to the edge of the lawn. She wore white silk this time, plunging neckline bared to the moon, her golden hair unbound. She hummed softly, eyes half closed. The others laughed behind her, unaware. From the shadows of the old churchyard, Evelyn watched. Her torn gown glimmered faintly, her ash-gray eyes fixed upon Eliza with hunger. And Eliza, though she could not see her, tilted her head as if listening to a lover's secret. Eliza has begun to feel Evelyn's lure. The circle laughs and dances still, but the whispers grow louder, the shadows nearer. Soon, desire itself may lead them willingly into the grave. Chapter 8. The Seduction at the Lake. The waning autumn sun bathed the village in molten gold, and the lake beyond the forest glimmered like a jewel set into the earth. It was tradition, once the harvest was gathered, for the villagers to host a lakeside fete. Boats strung with garlands drifted across the water. Tables of sugared cakes, roasted fowl, honeyed wine, and candied pears lined the grassy banks. Musicians brought flutes and tambourines, their songs carrying across the water like laughter set to melody. The circle of maidens arrived together, their beauty magnified by the shimmering light of the lake. Celeste wore midnight blue silk, her bodice adorned with tiny silver stars that caught the sun as she moved. She carried herself with the grace of a queen, head high, neckline modest, but no less commanding. Isolde, bold and green once again, allowed her laces to be tied daringly low, her dark curls tumbling freely across her shoulders. Clara glowed in pale gold muslin, delicate as sunlight itself. Sophie, timid no more, wore lavender gauze, her neckline open, her smile shy but blossoming. And then there was Eliza. If before she had sparkled, now she blazed. She chose ivory silk, nearly translucent, embroidered with red roses along the bodice. The neckline plunged deeply, bearing the swell of her heavy breasts, daring every eye upon the shore to follow her every step. Her golden hair was braided with ribbons, cascading down her back like spun sunlight. Upon her wrists, she wore Mariette's pearl bracelets, a token, she declared, that beauty never truly perished. As she stepped onto the lakeside meadow, men gasped audibly. One dropped his goblet. Another tripped over his own boots. Eliza laughed, raising her arms as if to embrace them all. "Do you see?" she called to her companions. "The world bends itself before beauty. How can fear touch us when we hold such power?" The circle applauded, though Celeste's smile faltered for a moment. Games on the water. Boats were prepared for the maidens, their prows decorated with garlands of ivy and roses. Eliza claimed one for herself and 3 eager young suitors. She teased them mercilessly, leaning over the edge so her neckline gaped, pretending to nearly topple into the lake, demanding they row faster to win the race across the water. "Careful," Clara cried from another boat, though laughter laced her voice. "If you fall in, we shall lose the brightest star of our sky." Eliza blew her a kiss. "The lake would only polish me brighter." As the boats skimmed the water, the circle sang songs. Their voices mingled with the flute music from the shore, carrying across the mirrored surface. For a time, the fete was pure delight. Laughter, wine, and the shimmer of silk gowns against blue waves. But when Eliza leaned too close to the water, her reflection rippled strangely. The reflections whisper. The lake mirrored her face, her golden hair, her ivory gown. But as the ripples stilled, another visage wavered beneath her own. Evelyn, the drowned bride, eyes hollow as the grave, lips curved in a ghostly smile. Her wedding gown trailed in the black water, weeds clinging to her pale limbs. "Eliza?" The whisper rose from the depths, carried not by air, but by water itself. Eliza gasped, clutching the boat's edge. For a heartbeat, her suitors noticed nothing. Still laughing, still rowing. Evelyn's pale hand lifted from the reflection, pressing palm against palm through the veil of water. Eliza trembled. She should have pulled back. She did not. Instead, she lowered her own hand until her fingers brushed the water, aligning with Evelyn's. The surface chilled her to the bone, as though winter had seized her veins. Promises filled her mind, eternal beauty, undying adoration, freedom from the fickle cruelties of men, the same lure that had taken Mariette. "Eliza," Evelyn whispered, "come to me. Come, as your sister came. You will not wither, you will not fade. You shall reign forever." Her heart hammered, her lips parted. The rescue of distraction. Eliza the shout broke the spell. Sophie's boat had drawn near, and Sophie herself leaned forward, eyes wide with concern. "Do not lean so far, you will fall." The suitors seized Eliza by the waist, laughing nervously as they drew her upright. She laughed too, though the sound trembled. "I nearly kissed the lake itself. Imagine my reflection as my lover." The circle roared at her jest, but Sophie whispered to Clara. Her eyes were strange, as though she saw something beyond us. Clara shivered. "Do not speak of it. Not here. Not tonight." The dance on the shore. As twilight fell, bonfires were lit along the bank, their flames casting golden halos across the meadow. Music swelled, couples danced barefoot on the grass, skirts swirling, shirts unbuttoned. The air reeked of wine, sweat, and roses. Eliza danced with abandon. She tossed her hair, bared her chest, laughed until tears wet her cheeks. She kissed a farmer's son on the mouth, then turned to kiss his friend as well. She lifted her skirts high as she leapt over the fire, men howling their approval. The others danced too, though Celeste kept a watchful eye, her gaze straying often toward the lake. At one point, Eliza spun so close to the fire that sparks clung to her gown. For an instant, the flames seemed to shape themselves into a pale woman's silhouette. Evelyn again, watching through the smoke. Eliza froze, her breath caught. But the music surged, and in the next heartbeat, she was laughing once more. Alone at midnight. When the fate dwindled and couples slipped into shadows, Eliza wandered once more to the water's edge. She held a goblet of wine, though it was nearly empty. The moon was high now, mirrored in the still black lake. "Mariette," she whispered. "If you are gone, where have you gone? Did you find what you sought?" The water rippled. Evelyn's voice rose again, sweet and venomous. "Mariette is with me. She is more beautiful than ever. She waits for you, Eliza." And in the reflection, Eliza saw two figures now, Evelyn and Mariette beside her. Mariette's auburn hair floated around her like fire drowned in ink, her emerald eyes hollow, her lips curved in a cruel smile. "Eliza," Mariette said, though her mouth did not move. "Join us." Eliza's goblet slipped from her hand, falling silently into the grass. She swayed toward the water. Her breath came shallow. Her arms lifted as if to embrace the reflection. The lake's surface shivered, and pale hands reached upward, grasping. The interruption. "Eliza!" Celeste's voice cut through the night. The elder maiden strode from the shadows, her gown dark against the firelight. Her hand seized Eliza's wrist, pulling her back from the bank. "What madness is this?" Celeste demanded. "You speak to water as though it were flesh." Eliza blinked, her trance broken, her golden hair falling loose about her face. She laughed weakly. "I drank too much. The night plays tricks." But Celeste's eyes narrowed. She glanced at the water, and for the briefest heartbeat, thought she saw pale gowns swirling just beneath the surface. Then the lake stilled, showing only moonlight. "Come," Celeste said firmly. "Enough revelry. The night is not safe." Eliza allowed herself to be led away, though her eyes strayed over her shoulder, yearning for the whisper once more. A shadow's claim. As the circle departed the fete, laughter masking unease, Evelyn rose silently from the lake's depths. Her torn wedding gown streamed around her, hair plastered to her ashen cheeks. Mariette's form lingered beside her, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "She is nearly ours," Evelyn murmured, her voice a rustle of dead leaves. Mariette's hollow smile widened. "Soon." The lake swallowed them whole once more. Eliza has danced closer to the grave than any yet, tempted by visions of Mariette and Evelyn's promises. Though Celeste's intervention saved her for now, the seed is planted deep. Soon, love and beauty will be no defense at all. Chapter 9. The Harvest Feast. The autumn moon rose like a polished coin above the hills, spilling silver across the thatched roofs and golden fields. All of the village gathered on the green for the harvest feast, a celebration of abundance, of beauty, of love, and of life itself. Torches blazed in iron sconces, fires roared in great pits where boars turned on spits, and long tables sagged beneath heaps of bread, honey, apples, grapes, and crimson wine that gleamed like jewels. Musicians struck their fiddles, flutes, and drums, weaving a melody that stirred feet and loosened inhibitions. The maidens of the circle were the undisputed stars of the evening. Mariette was gone, whispered to have fled or been taken, but the others came dressed in glory that dared sorrow to touch them. Eliza, her eyes like midnight embers, moved with a new, strange poise that none could name. Beside her walked Isabella, bold in a gown of emerald silk with a neckline that plunged like a river into forbidden valleys, laughter spilling as easily as wine. Clarice, sweet and innocent still, wore white with gold embroidery, her hair crowned in autumn leaves. Celeste shimmered in sapphire, a ribbon binding her hair so tightly her neck arched like a swan's. Even Adele, usually modest, surprised the feast in velvet cut daringly low, her cheeks glowing with both shame and delight at the admiring eyes that followed her. The men of the village, farmers with broad shoulders, soldiers home on leave, merchants with heavy purses, hovered near them as moths to fire. They brought cups of wine, whispered flattery, begged for dances. The maidens obliged with coy glances, bold touches, and the music of their laughter. The feast became a theater of seduction. Bold embraces hidden between sheaves of wheat, stolen kisses by the fire's glow, promises whispered beneath the drum's pounding rhythm. Eliza, however, played a different game. Where once her mirth had been carefree, now it was deliberate, too polished, her gaze lingering too long on throats and trembling lips. She drew a young man named Henry from the crowd, a boy of barely 19, with golden hair and innocence in his smile. She danced with him until his chest heaved and his skin glistened, then whispered in his ear words that made his knees weaken. He followed her into the orchard's shadows, though he never returned to the firelight. Only a single apple, bitten once and left dripping on the grass, marked where he had stood. The festival thundered on. No one noticed his absence at first. Isabel drank until her lips shone with wine and kissed 2 men in turn, to the cheers of her friends. Celeste spun in a wild dance that made her gown cling to her body, the torches painting her in flame. Adele reclined on a blanket near the fire, surrounded by suitors who plied her with roast meat and compliments, her laughter rippling like bells. Clarice, wide-eyed but eager, tried everything the feast offered. Honey dripping down her chin, a boy's rough hand at her waist, the thrill of spinning until she collapsed, laughing into the grass. She looked to Eliza for approval, and Eliza's dark eyes glowed as if lit from within. With a smile too sharp, too secret, Eliza beckoned her into the orchard's shadows. The firelight could not reach them there. The music dimmed, the laughter grew distant. The trees loomed like sentinels, their branches clawing at the stars. Clarice clung to Eliza's arm, giggling, asking where they were going. Eliza promised her delights greater than any dance, secrets of beauty and love eternal. Clarice's heart pounded, half fear, half yearning. And then, from the shadows between the trees, Evelyn came. Her gown was black velvet, flowing like spilled ink, her hair cascading in waves of midnight, her lips red as fresh blood. Her beauty was not human, not safe. It was a blade wrapped in silk, a crown of thorns glistening with dew. Clarice froze, trembling, whispering a prayer, but Eliza only bowed her head. Evelyn extended her hand. "Come, little one," she murmured, her voice a melody that curled around Clarice's heart. "Come and be mine forever." Clarice's breath caught, her lips parted, and for a moment she seemed ready to obey. But fear seized her at last. She turned, ready to flee back toward the firelight, yet Eliza's hand caught her wrist. With unnatural strength, with a smile both tender and cruel, Eliza drew her back. Evelyn's arms opened, her lips curved in triumph, and Clarice vanished into the shadows with them both. Back at the feast, the music roared louder, the fire flared higher, the laughter grew more frenzied. No one noticed that Clarice's white gown and golden crown of leaves were gone. Only later, when the fires burned low and the wine was nearly gone, did someone find her crimson ribbon lying in the grass, torn and damp as though with dew, or with tears. The whispers began then, nervous and sharp. 2 vanished maidens, and now perhaps a third. Yet Isabelle, Celeste, and Adele denied the dread, clinging to their suitors, to their pleasures, to the shimmer of torchlight on skin. "It is only a game," they told themselves. "The night is ours. The danger is but rumor." But deep in the orchard, beneath the cold moon, Evelyn held her new prize. And Eliza, her lips crimson and her eyes alight with unholy devotion, kissed the trembling Clarice's cheek as the feast's last notes died. Tomorrow, the circle would never be the same. Chapter 10. The Final Night. The village was not the same after the harvest feast. By morning, the fires had died, the wine stains soaked into the earth, and laughter was only an echo. Where once the lanes bustled with greetings and gossip, now whispers slithered behind shutters. Children were kept inside. Men sharpened scythes and pitchforks under the guise of farm work. Women prayed in candlelight, their voices trembling, and yet for all the fear, beauty did not fade. Isabelle, Celeste, and Adele still gathered in their chambers, dressing themselves in silks and ribbons, baring throats and shoulders as if daring the night to strike. Their boldness was a shield, their glamour defiance. If the world was slipping into shadow, then they would gleam brighter than fire until the end. But their circle was broken. Mariette was gone. Clarice had vanished into the orchard, and Eliza, once their sister in mirth and desire, returned from the feast with eyes that no longer glowed with innocence. She moved like a queen among them, her smile sharper, her laughter slower, her touch lingering too long on the soft skin of arms and necks. She was more radiant than ever, but her beauty burned cold. The villagers whispered it aloud now. Evelyn Graves had risen, the jealous bride buried alive, the phantom of the orchard, the seductress in velvet black. The elders spoke of curses older than the church, of oaths broken in blood. Yet still the younger men, bewitched by the sight of Isabel's plunging neckline or Celeste's jeweled gaze, scoffed and drank and followed their desires into the deepening night. It was on the second evening after the feast that the storm came. The clouds rolled black over the hills, lightning slashed the heavens, and thunder growled like a beast. The villagers barred their doors. But the maidens gathered in the old hall by the square, determined not to cower. Torches burned high along the walls, casting light on their gleaming gowns, their jeweled throats, their lips painted deep crimson. The men of the village joined them, handsome in their coats and boots, blades hidden beneath cloaks. The air was thick with both fear and lust. Couples clung tighter, hands slid over silk and lace, laughter rang louder than the storm. They would not surrender joy to shadows. But then the music faltered, a silence stretched. The torches flickered. The great door at the far end creaked open, and a cold wind swept inside. Evelyn entered. She was more terrible and more beautiful than ever. Her gown of black velvet trailed like midnight itself, her hair a river of dark silk, her eyes burning with unnatural fire. Around her glided the shapes of her undead suitors. Men once handsome, now pale and hollow-eyed, their mouths stained with crimson. And beside her at her right hand walked Eliza. The maidens gasped. Adele clutched Celeste's arm, trembling. Isabel cursed and snatched up a torch. But Eliza only smiled, her lips shining as though freshly kissed, her gaze heavy with secrets. She looked upon her sisters with something like sorrow and something like hunger. "My darlings," Evelyn purred, her voice silk laced with venom. "Did you think your beauty could escape me? Did you think love was yours to keep? No, it belongs to me, as you soon shall." The storm thundered outside. Within, the hall became a cage of firelight and fear. The men drew blades, their faces pale. Isabel raised her torch high, shouting that they would never yield. Celeste cried out a prayer, clutching the silver cross at her neck. Adele fell to her knees, trembling but radiant even in terror. And Eliza, beautiful, cursed Eliza, stepped forward, her gaze fixed on her sisters. "It is not too late," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Come with us. She offers eternity. Eternal youth, eternal love. No more sorrow, no more loss, only pleasure without end." But Isabel spat at the floor. "I would rather die in fire than live in chains." The hall erupted into chaos. Evelyn's suitors surged forward, their pale hands reaching, their mouths opening in silent hunger. The men of the village met them with steel and fury. Torches were flung, tables overturned, screams mingled with thunder. The maidens fought as they had danced, boldly, with beauty and fire. Isabel swung her torch in great arcs, flames catching velvet and shadow alike. Celeste tore down a silver candelabrum and thrust it into an undead's chest, her jeweled gown torn but her eyes blazing. Adele, trembling, seized a pitcher of wine and hurled it over Evelyn's gown, then struck a torch against it. Flames licked up black velvet, though Evelyn only laughed, the fire dying upon her skin. Through it all, Eliza wavered. She defended Evelyn, striking down a man with a speed not her own. Yet when her gaze fell on Isabel's bleeding arm, or on Celeste's tears, her hand trembled. She was caught between two worlds, her heart a battlefield. It was Celeste who saw it, the weakness, the wound in Evelyn's power. "She cannot endure light," Celeste cried, remembering the way Evelyn lingered always at Shadow's edge. "The dawn. We must hold her until the dawn." So they fought on, desperate, clinging to life as the storm raged. Men fell, maidens screamed, shadows shrieked. Evelyn's voice rose above it all, promising love, beauty, eternity, tempting even as she destroyed. And then, as lightning tore the heavens open, the first pale line of dawn touched the horizon. The maidens, bloodied but unbowed, dragged open the shutters. Light speared the hall. Evelyn screamed, her velvet gown unraveling into smoke, her beauty withering like a rose in flame. She clutched Eliza's hand, begging her to follow, but Eliza tore free at last, collapsing to the floor. The sun rose. Evelyn's scream faded into silence. The suitors crumbled to dust. The storm broke into clear morning. Silence fell. The hall was ruined, blood and ash staining the floor. Some men lay still, never to rise. Isabel leaned on her torch like a spear, her gown in tatters, her eyes wet with both victory and grief. Celeste knelt by Adele, who trembled but still lived, her velvet torn but her beauty unbroken. And Eliza, pale, trembling Eliza, rose slowly from the floor. Her eyes still glowed faintly, her lips still bore the crimson mark. Evelyn was gone, but her touch remained. Eliza was free, yet not whole. She would live, but forever marked, forever haunted. The circle of maidens gathered around her. Isabel touched her cheek, fierce even in tenderness. "You are ours still," she whispered. "Whatever curse you carry, you are ours." Eliza wept then, her tears streaking down her pale face. She pressed her forehead to Isabel's shoulder, clinging like a child. She had survived, cursed, but free. The sun rose higher, gilding the ruins in gold. Smoke drifted into the morning air. The village would rebuild, love would return, beauty would blossom again. But the memory of Evelyn and the shadow of her curse would never be forgotten. And so it ended, not in perfect triumph, not in complete despair, but in something more human, more terrible, more true. A bittersweet victory. Some lived, some died, but the circle endured, scarred, changed, radiant still beneath the weight of sorrow. And in Eliza's eyes, where the morning light caught like fire, there remained a glimmer of desire, of hunger, of eternity. The curse was broken, but not gone.
In the shadows of the night, where the moonlight glows, the zombies lurking everywhere, that's how the story goes. Grab your gear, hold on tight, it's a wild ride ahead. In the zombie story zone, where the brave don't fear the dead. Welcome to the zombie story zone, where the tales of the undead are widely known. Join the hunt, uncover the fight. In the zombie story zone, we'll survive the night. From the graveyards to the streets, hear the whispers low. Every story